Welcome to the Spine of Deathwing, a fight comprised with subtle and interesting mechanics. I'm going to weave in between what you're doing and why you're doing it, and try to keep the flow non-jarring. You talk to Swayze and you parachute onto Deathwing's back. You can click this off to land faster. There are 4 corruptions, 2 that can't do anything because they're holding NPCs, and you would kill your choice of 3 or all 4 of them. Each one killed spawns an amalgamation. Your tanks pick these up, and your entire raid stacks in a wound to become adhered to the boss. Now explaining the roll mechanic. Rolling is something you can initiate Deathwing to do. It will cause every amalgamation on his back to fly off. Any player that isn't glued in a tendril wound will also fly off. Raid stacks on one side to avoid that. To extrapolate on the rolling mechanic, there is no middle of Deathwing to Deathwing. You're either on the left side or right side. If so much as one person is on the opposite side of the entire raid, he will not initiate a roll. It is super real-time detection. The moment enough people cross, it will update. He will do a roll warning. If everyone stays on that side for 5 seconds, he will initiate that roll. If someone dances over the middle, it'll stop that timer. It will not reinitiate until criteria is met for one side. That was a how roll. This is the why roll. Excess amalgamations are useless, and you just want to get rid of them. You just cast them off. The amalgamations do kind of serve a purpose though, big and small. Each one that you spawn 5 seconds after, they leave a debuff on someone in your raid. This is blood corruption, death/earth. There's some convoluted play involved with this. Last 16 seconds period, no matter what it ends up being. At that 16 seconds, it'll pay out whatever it is. Starts off as death. After being cleansed X amount of times and jumping, it will turn into earth. There's a chance when it has turned into earth to turn back into death, but I don't know how many cleanses it needs to make that happen. If after 16 seconds it spends as death, your raid wipes. If it spends as earth, whoever it is on reduces the damage that they take by 20%. This can stack up to 2 times. Fun aspect about this is how it jumps. Cannot confirm this 100%, but it seems to jump from people who are on one side of Deathwing to the other. I believe what he deciphers as his left and right side. And if that holds water, you want this to land on your tanks as earth. Do you choose to have 3 or 4 amalgamations off the rip? It bounces debuffs back and forth. Ideal end result scenario is that you would have multiple earth on both your tanks. And you do that by positioning your raid on one side and your tanks on the other. Within the window of blood turning into earth, and the 1 to 2 jumps you can risk when it is earth to jump to somebody else. It might be more than that, I don't know for certain. If it doesn't end up landing on your tank, you're uncomfortable bouncing it anymore, leave it as earth on whoever it is if you fear it risking into blood and wiping the raid. This is considered the actual start of the fight. Ideal scenario, your tanks have some chunk from the debuff. There are bloods that are spawning out of the wounds where the tentacles came from. These initially spawn at a rate of 9 seconds. When you kill one, it does mild raid-wide damage and it turns into residue. It is very important where you kill these. A less known fact about these is when they turn into residue, they slowly creep toward the location where the tendrils are. And when they reach the center of that wound, they reconstitute back into its slime form at full health. The rate at which it's creeping toward that hole is about 1 yard every 10 seconds. And it goes to the one that it considers the closest. If you kill it next to a wound, within 10 seconds, it'll be back to its former self. From a furthest from any hole possible location, it's like 3+ minutes. Against the wall, close to a wall, close to the center spine, is easily 2+ minutes. So as long as you kill it somewhere close to the center spine, you are fine. These residues serve a purpose in fueling the amalgamation. Each stack the amalgamation slurps up, makes it do more damage. Once it reaches 9 stacks, it becomes critical mass. It does a pulsating AoE, and when it dies under those conditions, it will blow up after a set amount of time the plate on the spine, allowing you to do damage to the boss in this encounter, which is the tendril. Before we get into this bit, there is another factor, which is the corrupting tentacle. It follows a casting pattern. It does 2 8-second casts of searing plasma back to back. It's a heal-absorbing damage over time effect. That's cleansed when you heal it all the way through. This is applied to a randomly targeted raid member. Its third cast will always be Firing Grip. This stun locks 12% of your raid in place until it has taken 15% of its max health and damage in order to break that stun, where it will repeat its casting cycle. You want to use initial damage abilities in order to break this, unless it is below 15% health already, where in that situation you would want to time dots to kill it by the time it is casting the grip. Timing this is significantly important when you have activity on the tendril underneath the plate. Every damaging the plate phase should be prefaced with this scenario. You have your amalgamation down to about 5 or less percent. You have 9 slimes dead and ready to be absorbed. And the corruption tentacles in the midst of casting searing plasmas. Your amalgamation is at 3%, you scoop up all 9, it's ready to explode, it's pulsating in AoE. Your ranger already in the back, outside of the range of the boom. The amalgamation is placed on the side of the plate you want ripped up. It is killed within seconds at that location. It begins a channeled cast to self-destruct. Everyone vacates its radius, blowing cooldowns if you need to heal through the superheated pulse. The tendril casts Fiery Grip. The amalgamation finally explodes, there's an animation of the plate coming up. You break that grip as this animation is happening, Alternatively, like in this example, if you've already broken the grip and it's at low health, you can time it to die with dots before it grips again. The tendril underneath the plate becomes tangible, attackable, and everyone is available to beat the heck out of this thing, including your healers. Now there is some significant finesse that goes into this portion, and it is very comp and raid specific. You want to do damage to more than 50% of its health each time you peel the plate up. There is nothing else in this encounter that is worth blowing cooldowns for than this. So you want to utilize your cooldowns in a mathed out kind of way in order to succeed in killing it in 2 explosions every time. The essence of this fight is repeating that essentially 6 times, where you might be able to benefit from Time Warp, Lust, Hero for 2 of those. This will be paramount until the buff rolls out that reduces the health of all the mobs in here. So expect during the first month of progginess, saving your potions for it, saving a glove for it. 3 and 5 minutes on this one, the 2 minutes on this one. Again, it becomes lax over time, but that does need to be planned out. There are 3 tendrils, and you'll repeat this 6 times. When you break a plate, there will be 2 corruption tentacles where the plate was. Meaning there's currently 3 active, you kill 2, so you're down to 1 again. You force them to initiate a roll, getting rid of the Amalgs, and you cleanse the debuffs until you get Earth on people that you want it on. Cramming this edit in here. For every amalgamation that isn't rolled off and is killed, superheated or otherwise, the raid will acquire a stack of degradation, which by the end of the fight should be 30% max health reduced. Also underneath each plate is a unique tendon. Be sure to blow up the same side on your second explosion, otherwise you are effectively starting over. Each amalgamation you cause to explode will cause the slimes to spawn 1 second faster. Initially starting at 9 seconds, you get to the second plate, it's like 7 to 6. Final plate, it's every couple seconds, there's a new slime to deal with. When you progress to the final plate, your slime tank will be full on kite duty. You can have your main tank, or a cat go bear to taunt in slimes to a spot that isn't going to get absorbed by the amount. Pull that till it's at 9, and then just go about the process as if it was any other plate. In a nutshell, that is the Spine of Deathwing. There are other alterations you can do to make this fight approachable in a different manner than just kiting the ads at the end. You can opt to, when you peel up one of the plates, heal through the damage that slimes do when you overkill them. Have one of the Amalgs that you're going to throw off absorb 9 of them. And your tank just kites it to that same side of Deathwing to cause the roll, but to a different fissure, and just roll the entire bomb off, reducing some of the slimes to deal with. In the grand scheme of things, this isn't going to impact the flow of the fight significantly in favor for your ad tank. It'll probably still have to kite them at the end. But it is an addition that you can incorporate to have less ask of your ad tank. Currently irrelevant, but will be relevant later. Zug strats around this encounter would be saving 2 Amalg and like 18 residues of slimes to back pop a plate up. But it's not likely until the health reduction buff comes in and makes this fight not significantly painful as it is right now. You might be able to get away with it in tier 12 gear with the right comp, and it would come with hella bragging rights, but in a realistic viewpoint, this is like multiple weeks out. Their health's been reduced by 25%. We want to reduce the kill times, let's go with this kind of a thing. And that's pretty much it for the Spine of Deathwing. Thank you for your time. If you can meet this check, you definitely have the means to kill the madness of Deathwing. Ultra Axion Spine is like a DPS and coordination check. If you can get through those, you are very likely to be able to survive the attrition and DPS check that is the madness of Deathwing. I hate when these are long, and I'm sorry. Thank you for watching. Shout out to my Patreon and Coffee supporters. Links to the things and stuff I use. Twitch, Patreon, and Coffee. And I will see you again soon. DM.